Just very quickly to give you guys a feel for this. This is about shaping the skills pipeline, and it's an insight into the new Pearson BTEC qualifications for post-16 learners in and around esports. Pearson are the biggest education company on the planet, so proper gold standard stuff here. And they've been an amazing organisation to work with, as you would kind of expect, but really open and really ambitious about what the sector can bring. So, no further ado, Gary, Fiona, and Laura, this floor is yours.
Thanks. I'll kick off first. I'm Fiona Callaghan. I'm the territory manager for BTEC and apprenticeships in Northern Ireland and Scotland, and I look after all of the BTEC activity and centres in both countries. And really, I just wanted to run through the new BTEC that we've developed in esports. Although this is a brand new sector for us, it actually follows our design principles in creating a high quality career focused qualification with skills-based learning designed around themed units. We partnered with British Esports really because industry recognition is really critical to BTEC, and that partnership has really paid dividends for us. As Chester, and I think Mike, you mentioned it earlier, the qualifications are not just about gaming though. This suite has been developed to enable learners to experience different areas of esports to aid their progression to employment either directly or into further study. But more than that, it crosses over and complements other subject areas. I've pulled out a couple of them here. So business, creatives, marketing, IT, enterprise and sport. But as well as that, the BTEC also offers transferable and behavioural skills as well. A question came up on the chat earlier about moving into dedicated careers within the esports ecosystems. And I think when we cover the structure and the units within the BTEC, you can see that we've actually got some dedicated units that recognise the wider careers that are in esports. So I think most of the audience is maybe in Scotland. So I've pulled together this slide really about introducing BTEC into the Scottish curriculum. I suppose firstly what I would say most critically is that all 4 sizes are available and accredited by SQA for teaching in Scotland. They're also accredited for each of the home nations to allow full portability and progression across the UK. In England, Wales and Northern Ireland, they sit at level 3 on the RQF. So the expectation is that they will sit at level 6 on the SQCF. They're all post-16 qualifications, and it's important to note that they're all at the same level. The only difference is the size and the equivalence of the qualification. So I've listed there the titles and the associated guided learning hours in UCAS, just to give you an idea of the size and how they might fit into your centre curriculum. The smallest is the extended certificate, which is 360 guided learning hours. Foundation diploma is 540, the diploma is 720, and our largest size, the extended diploma, comes in at 1080. Looking at the guided learning hours, you can see that an extended certificate has around the same GLH as an advanced higher or a national certificate band C, with the ability to achieve up to the same UCAS points. But a bit like the advanced higher, the UCAS is scaled based on an overall grade, allowing for differentiation in abilities. Centres can choose to run the larger sizes as a full 2-year programme. For example, in year 1, you could offer the foundation diploma, and then in year 2, top up to the extended diploma. This is probably the most popular route in FE elsewhere across the UK. But you could opt to deliver a smaller size, such as the extended certificate, alongside NCs, hires, advanced hires, or if you're joining us from elsewhere in the UK, alongside A-levels. It's very much in line with what would work for your curriculum, and linking back to those subject areas where we think there's a good crossover of skills. In terms of assessment, it's 100% internally assessment. So that means there's no exams to this BTEC suite. Usual BTEC grading is in place though. So that ranges from a distinction star, which is the highest grade, through to an unclassified. And for example, a distinction star extended certificate carries the same UCAS as an A at advanced higher, or a pass and an SQA national certificate band C, or an A star at A level. As I said, the qualification suite itself is very much progression and skills focused. In terms of supporting centres, it's one of our new qualifications, and we have created a bank of support to support any new centres in adopting the qualification. So we provide authorised assignment briefs, which are briefs that we have prepared and verified, and they can be used to effectively assess all or part of a BTEC unit. But equally, you can create your own if you like, and you can submit them to us for checking. But as well as that, you'll have access to our Ask the Expert service, our subject advisor, standards verifier, as well as being able to join any of our standardisation and getting ready to teach events. We have a plethora of support available to you. I've popped up my email address on this slide, as well as a link to the esports sector page. Please do get in touch with me directly for any further information on the suite. And also if you're looking for some guidance on how you could adopt a BTEC into your curriculum. I'm now going to pass you on to Gary.
Cheers. Thank you, Fiona. I appreciate that. Thank you. So I'll take over now. Just a bit of a background about me before I kind of jump into the BTEC, why we created it and kind of where it's going and our aims and goals for it. So my background and my kind of starting point was in the games industry. I graduated from Teesside University in computer games animation, and then from there got a job within the games industry. I worked for AAA, Indie. I did some work for MTV, some work for the NHS in AR and VR, creating animations so patients who couldn't walk, for example, or get out of bed could put the VR on and kind of walk about and see stuff. So my job was the animation side of it, the VFX, the kind of the particle effects, which I absolutely love to this day. So that's my starting point. From there, I kind of lectured in universities and colleges where I found a full-time job to teach animation, visual effects and games at Sunderland College with the Next Gen Games Academy. So that was kind of my first deep dive into education and teaching, which was new, fantastic, and exciting, all of them things. And that's kind of where it got me thinking how to further engage students. And whilst they love their games, some of my students didn't enjoy making games, they enjoyed playing games, they enjoyed watching games, they enjoyed the behind the scenes aspect of games. And by the time I left, some of my students started going to universities for esports, not just for games. A lot of the students went to Abertay University, with it being one of the best universities in the world for the games side of things. Some of my students are still there now. I still speak to them, so it's fantastic to hear. From there, I was approached by the BEA to set up a pilot in the championship, which is now the British Esports Championships. Pilot 3 games. It was 8 colleges over 6 weeks, and we won. So we won Project Cars 2 at the time, which is now Rocket League, Overwatch, League of Legends. And from our stint at the college, which is about 3.5 years, we won everything, all finals, all splits, all grand finals, bar one, which was a bit of a kick in the teeth, but I mean, you can't win everything, right? But it was a fantastic opportunity, and it really showed me firsthand how things can grow. And when you find a passion for somebody who hasn't found their passion yet, it really lights up what they are. So, which leads me on to this now. So I was one of the lead writers, lead creators of the Level 3 BTEC in esports, along with Tom Daw, my manager, who's head of education here at the BEA. I'm the education manager. We worked with the industry, we worked with educators to create this BTEC. And why esports? And I guess why not? And what I mean by that is it's a realm, it's an ecosystem, it's something that hasn't been touched yet in the education space, in the grassroots space. There's something missing there. It's there for sport, it's there for drama, it's there for the games, it's there for everything else, but it's not there for esports. And what's fantastic about it is it gives these individuals their place to be in this up and coming and booming industry, which is fantastic. Like Mike touched on earlier, the BTEC itself in esports teaches transferable skills. It teaches leadership, communication, dexterity, flexibility, cyber skills, teamwork, problem solving, all of that these individuals don't realize that they're doing it and how they're doing it. It really kind of comes into fruition when you watch them play these games and watch them learn and how they work together. And there's very few industries, and even in the education space, where you can bring 5 people together or 3 people together, sit them down, they've never met, and they can put on some headphones, play the game they love, and they're talking within seconds about how to do something, how to win mid lane, if you're split pushing, if you're rotation in Rocket League, who's flanking you in Overwatch. And they've never met each other before, and it's these transferable skills and it's these communicational skills that they're learning just off the bat, like second nature to them. We don't have to embed these skills. They're there to start with, which is fantastic. It facilitates alliance and social, physical, mental, and financial skills across the board, depending on what you want to learn from this. And like I said before, the learners, they apply strategy, skills, and teamwork. And not only that, it's positive psychology, it's happiness, it's social impact, it's best screen time. So I think like Mike and Andy touched on before, where is it too much screen time to play time? What is the boundaries? And whilst there's a moderation, it's the best screen time, right? It's how they engage with their screen. It's an active media. It's not a passive media. They're not sat there scrolling on social media, looking at negative comments or tweets or Instagrams or pictures. They're actually engaging with this community that they love and they like. Now, don't get me wrong, there's toxicity, but there's toxicity in everything. We try our best to stand that out, but it's always going to be there. It teaches these individuals how to win, to lose, digital well-being, health and mental well-being. I know it's been on the kind of conference so far as well. It really brings everything together, which is fantastic to see. So this is the qualification at a glance. I know Fiona went over it a little bit, but why I brought this up and why I wanted to show this is, and Mike touched on it before, we're not teaching esports, right? Esports is the label. Under esports, like sport, is the umbrella. It's the full ecosystem, right? We're teaching these transferable skills that I can teach one individual, that individual can take them skills, whether it be into esports or into a different realm completely. For example, Unit A is video production. Now, the fundamentals of video production is video production. You could teach that as a unit. But what we do is we're using esports as the hook, as the vehicle to get these individuals motivated, excited about what they love, and also teach them video production on the side. So like Mike was saying, if you're looking to teach this qualification, when we're not looking for an esports teacher or a shoutcast teacher or an events management teacher, actually we might be looking for an events management teacher, that's not a good example, but what I'm getting at is we're not asking you to teach esports as a whole, because you can't. I don't think anybody can within this industry, right? Because it's divvied up of all these little units and individual kind of job roles that are specific. But if you've got a passion for esports, that's why you should be doing this course. The engagement is fantastic, and we've seen that from the courses and the centers that are delivering this already. Live stream production is another one. Producing an esports brand, and now producing an esports brand is producing like any brand in the world, whether it's Adidas, Mercedes, Nike, Gfinity, like your brand is your brand. But what we want is to teach the individual how to market your brand, how to approach companies with your brand, how to get investment for your brand. Your brand is going to be your esports, because that's what you're passionate about. As you can see, you've got the extended foundation diploma and extended diploma. The M is mandatory units. So when you are teaching this, they're the units you will be choosing. And then as the O's are the optional units. So let's say you're a college who is heavily involved in sport. Now you could choose the sport units for this, and you could run this esports qualification alongside your sports unit, but you're teaching sports for esports disciplines. So the psychology would be psychology for esports. Health and nutrition would be a dietary plan and nutrition plan for esports players, but not just players, but managers, coaches, people who are behind the scenes as well. Again, it's like 0.1, 0.23% of the people who make it professional. But again, we're not teaching how to be a professional player. This course doesn't teach you how to be an esports player. It teaches you the fundamental of esports, what the ecosystem is, and then the individual specific units that you would like to teach as well. So this is a nice slide we created with Pearson with industry, and what it shows you is the transferable skills that I'm talking about, and where it leads and how it can lead to the greater tech, digital, and STEM industries as well. This BTEC course isn't a case of you do this and then you move into higher education esports or you get a job in esports. Obviously, we would love them things to happen for anybody, but what we want as well is these individuals to find their passion in life, their goal in a career, and move into that, whether it's within the games, digital, marketing, social media, journalism, observer, admin, broadcast, in any field. And this qualification teaches you all of them transferable skills, but we're using esports as the hook, as the Trojan horse, to get these people who are passionate about something that isn't now already, to bring them in and then teach them skills further. The academic links are there in the middle, the general roles, and it really kind of encompasses everything that we want to show. Now, don't get me wrong, this isn't every role in esports, every role in tech and digital. It's just some of them to show you how it kind of adds together and how it works together. This can be found on the Pearson's website. I will link it after I've spoke. I'll link all the links in the chat over on the other side. But this kind of is a nice way of showing you what career pathways there are. Another thing we created is a kind of, what do these job roles represent? What are they, and where do they lead? Not just it leads to journalism, it leads to coaching, it leads to lighting, voiceovers, broadcast. But what do they do, and what skills do you need, and how does it actually benefit you in esports? Now, these are only a few of the ones we created. Again, these can be found on the Pearson website. I will link these to them. But again, we work with industry. We never do things off our own back here at BEA. We've got many friends, many links, and that's who we work with. And Andy can kind of contest that as well. And really, it's about what the industry want, right? And what we want to do is teach these individuals what industry are looking for, not what we think they're looking for and what we want to teach them. It's what they actually need. And like Mike was saying at Dexterto, it's what is he looking for if you want to be a journalist, right? So we will go to him. We've worked with Adam Finch before. So it's these type of people who we're working for throughout the whole ecosystem. And these really show you kind of what is a journalist, what skills do you need, how these job roles benefit. Now, don't get me wrong, you could Google any of this, but the whole point of this is we're getting it from the industry, we're getting it from the source, and then we're giving it to you guys as these resources that you need, not just to teach the BTEC, but to understand what this industry is about. Like, don't get me wrong, journalism is journalism. And again, Mike can say to that, but it's journalism in the passion that you want to broadcast it out there to the world. You're not doing journalism about sport, you're not doing about football, about hockey, about netball, but you're doing about esports. But what role in esports is it? Is it League of Legends? Is it Dota? Is it Valorant? Is it to do with upcoming streamers? Is it content creators? What do you want to be a journalist about, and how does it affect and how does it benefit the esports industry? Again, they're just four of many different ones as well. Now, progression into esports, one of the main questions I get asked by organizations, educators, parents. A lot of my week is spent speaking to colleges about how to set up a BTEC, what the best practices, do you have resource for this, speaking to parents, is the actual job in this? I remember when I was lecturing in animation and games, the main question I got asked on every open evening was, so is the jobs in the games industry? And I laugh because I know there is. It's the biggest industry there is there, combined over music, film, etc., etc. It's huge and it's booming, and it gets frustrating because some individuals and some organizations don't want to hear that. They don't want to hear that making a game is a career pathway. But it's not about what the parents want. It's not about what they want to hear. It's about where can we teach and where can we show these individuals where they want to go, and that's the main thing. Where are these jobs? If the industry is worth £1 billion, where are the jobs? Where do they come from? Now, here are some of them. These aren't all of them, but these are some of them. So, for example, on the apparel section at the bottom, these are all apparel organizations that are part of the esports industry, whether it's to do with sponsorship, whether it's to do with owning a brand or sponsoring a brand, or just get adverts out there. One of the ones I left off this just because the slide was too big is sponsors. Now, sponsors range from anywhere from Mercedes to Nike to BMW to telecoms, as in BT. Now, people wouldn't think that they had their own esports divisions or they had a foothold in esports because they're not directly linked with it. But over this pandemic and growingly, they have been. League of Legends, for example, I think World 2018 or 2019, one of their sponsors was Louis Vuitton, and there was bags made, and the trophy was made, and it looked absolutely beautiful. BMW sponsor 5 main League of Legends teams like Fnatic, G2, Eskom Telecom 1, which is now T1, FPX, and there's another. I always forget the 5th. But what I'm getting at is these are all job roles that you could possibly do the BTEC, into higher education, and then into one of these divisions within these industries that aren't necessarily instantly directed like the esports orgs. So yes, you instantly associate these with esports and the esports field, but some of these are also content creation organizations as well, which, like Mike said, aren't playing the esports game competitively, but they're in the scene with social media or marketing. FaceClan, for example, they've got as well. Cloud9, Astralis, 100 Thieves. They're not just a team, but they've got an organization that's in the Call of Duty League as well. So they're a franchise team. And the hardware, again, they have the hardware. They sponsor events. They have all the keyboards, the mice, the peripherals. But they're also part of the whole esports ecosystem. Same with streaming platforms. Now, I think Twitch is a sponsor on some things, but a lot of them are just what you watch. You watch the games on the esports, the just talking, and the coverage. Again, Dexter's on there, BBC. So these are all organizations who cover esports, but not just the players and the top 1% of the professional players, but the whole ecosystem in general. And for example, on that, I think 2 weeks ago, or maybe in last week, the BBC covered a story about National Star College. So National Star College is a college who helps non-able-bodied students. Well, they teach them for starters, but they're now part of the championships, but also that they ran a FIFA tournament, so part of the AOC FIFA tournament. Now you can watch this on BBC Point West. It was, so you can find it on the BBC iPlayer. But it was a beautiful piece, and it was a kid playing FIFA against another student in the country they'd never met. They didn't speak to each other. But the student who was playing was in a wheelchair, and he was using adaptive controllers with his head and with his arms to play FIFA. And the joy you could see on his face by playing against somebody, just the opportunity to play was an incredible thing to say. It's emotional because I generally care about this industry. Again, aside in the games, I moved in the esports. I still do it in both, and I'm an educator as well. I was an educator, sorry. So seeing a student being able to play another player in the country who was able-bodied, who had a controller, but they didn't know who they were playing. And what's fantastic about esports and what's fantastic about the progression and the BTEC and the education side is it doesn't discriminate. It doesn't care what color you are, what race you are, if you're able-bodied, if you're not able-bodied, your height, your size, female or male or not non-binary. It doesn't matter. You can compete and you can progress in this industry regardless of what your background is, what your stature is, and that's the fantastic thing about it. And where are these jobs? Like Mike said earlier, and like Andy had mentioned, and like I'm showing you on this slide, these jobs are everywhere, really. And it just depends where you want to go with it and where you see the transferable skills going, and really hitting the passion for the student that you're teaching, which is a great thing to do. And that's the last slide. And so I could talk. I think we've got enough time for questions, Andy. I think it's about 10 minutes left, give or take. But I could talk about for ages. So I'll pass it back over to you for now, buddy. Thank you.
Wow, Gary, you are one passionate person. That's one of the reasons why I love working with you. Fiona, thank you so much for your insight. There are a couple of questions in the chat. One specifically I'd like to ask Fiona. Mike Griffiths asks, have Pearson thought about setting up a dedicated route for those looking to gain their NQTS to teach esports? Or will it be relied upon just to get current teachers from perhaps IT, business, sport, etc.?
I think we would just be pulling it from the existing pool of teaching staff, but I can certainly take that away to our product team and see if there is anything that we can do on that.
I think that's interesting because in many ways that kind of plays into what there's a fair few themes running through the whole day here, which is transferable skills. And I think, it kind of answers its own question in so many ways. I think Mike earlier made something I agree with. Some of the esports courses that some of the English universities have developed may be missing the mark a little bit. We'll see. But teaching a wealth of transferable skills via a very good hook, as Gary said, like esports, almost a Trojan horse, that's quite a legitimate thing. I mean, if you want to get people to get educated, they've got to be interested. All right, that's the fundamental. They've got to be interested. They've got to see why it's relevant. I think in our education system, we've seen a lot of bad mistakes made by teachers or sometimes actually politicians, sort of demanding a certain subject is taught in a certain way instead of letting the teachers kind of get on with it and figure out what's going to help those kids understand, open their minds, receive. And I think getting the passion is clear. We've had passion all the way through today. I mean, no more than you, Gary, in so many ways. But it's warming to see because, as a kid, we all went to school. As a kid who went to school and didn't have a very good time at school, having been expelled twice from the same school, I found it. There were certain teachers that really appealed to me because I was interested. They knew what I was interested in, and they built on that, and it's a two-way street. So I think we can learn a lot from this. And I think that if you consider esports as fundamentally a place where people gather, as it happens online most of the time, but in real life as well with tournaments, where people gather in their millions, as we see in esports audiences, markets will come about, and markets create jobs, opportunities, and dare I say, markets can give all of us an opportunity to level up, to use our gaming phrase that we've always had for 40 years. I know the current Prime Minister likes to use that one, but it is a gaming phrase. We should be proud of that. But, where people gather, good stuff happens. And I think that's kind of coming across loud and clear today in these sessions via the brilliant talks that everybody's putting through. Really, another kind of thing that comes through to put to both of you is about health and well-being, being really at the centre of everything that we're talking about. It's about time too, frankly, that we hear more about that sort of thing. I mean, personally, if you're having fun, that's a big thing in life. If you get up and go in the morning because you want to have fun, because you feel like you're getting on, you've got supportive networks, that's a great thing. But Fiona, Gary, just give us a bit of around that, the health and well-being aspect that I think we could just elucidate a bit on.
Yeah, of course. So go first, Fiona, is that okay? Cool, thank you. So I mean, so I'll take it back to my teaching days, I guess, for starters. When the Champs was first in its pilot, we had the League of Legends game that we had was on Twisted Treeline. Now, Twisted Treeline is no longer a game mode. It was a 3v3, but that's what we ran for the pilot. And we had 3 players, and one of them wasn't a very good student, not because he was unpassionate or not happy. He just wasn't. He didn't find what he enjoyed. So he was doing the Next Gen Games course, and he enjoyed art. That was his favorite subject there. But you could tell he wasn't engaged. Now, when this championship pilot came along, his eyes perked up, he lit up, and he changed into a different person. And I remember he was in the second year. They had the Snowbit project, which is a huge 6-month project. And for the entire year, he just wasn't engaged. He just wasn't bothered. He was more or less failing. We could have pulled him through with a pass if we had to. Again, and then this pilot came along, and he just changed into a different person, a different student, a different kid. He was just very, very driven, not just to be part of the team, but to be part of the course. That being said, the day we had our semi-finals, he didn't turn up to college. He had an assignment due in, and he didn't hand it in. So, but then he comes in at 4:00 for the game. And my manager realized he came in, walked in and was like, sorry, I won't mention the kid's name. I'm sorry, but you're not playing out. And I would have liked to fight for him because I don't want to lose. This is my competitive side. But I understood why my manager did it, right? Because we're trying to teach these individuals that you just can't get away with what you want. You have to, it's a team game. You have to be part of the team. And he didn't realize that until he got dragged away. Now he got pulled out. He was devastated. He was crying. He was generally, I've never seen anything like it in all my teaching career. And he didn't come back to play. My manager didn't let him back, so I had to get a substitute in. We won the semi-finals, which was great, but we went into the finals. From that day forward, he never missed a day of class. All of his assignments were handed in, and he went on to university. We won the finals as well because of him. And I think a switch flipped in him, Andy, where it was like he understood what it is to be part of a team and this impact you have with working with others. And to talk about kind of health and well-being, he wasn't happy in what he was doing as a course. And when he finally found something he was happy in, which was esports, it flipped and he was a different person and for the better. And that's what this is about. Yes, too much screen time is bad time, but like anything, too much of one thing is a bad thing. I played football at school, but at a time I was that engrossed in it. It affected my grades at school, right? So while sport and athletics is good for you, if you're going to negate other stuff that's going on in your life, then it becomes bad. And it's balancing everything, Andy. So I think well-being taught properly, and because it is in part of this BTEC, and now we are seeing psychologists, nutritionists, and everything like that, it helps so much more in this ecosystem that kind of needs it.
Great. Well, that's kind of what I expected, Gary. That's fantastic. Thank you. Fiona, have you got anything to add to any of that?
Really just to echo what Gary has said, but I think when you look at the structure of the new BTEC, there's a mandatory unit that runs across all sizes on health, well-being and fitness for esports players. But further, we are looking at nutrition, psychology. So we recognise that it is a factor there and it is built into the BTEC.
Brilliant. Well, thank you for that. There are other comments. We've only got a couple of minutes left, but just one here from Kylie Kendrick, who works for Durham University, who are just getting into esports. And they say, how can I make it abundantly clear that esports is a subject that Red Bricks need to take seriously? I'll give you what I think. I think I'll go back to where people are. Markets take no, markets form notice, and if this kind of tsunami of esports, which we all think it is for real, then ultimately top universities will take it seriously, because if they don't, it's their loss. But that's just me being a market fundamentalist. What do you think?
I fully agree with you, Andy. I mean, I think with us working together, our goals align on a lot of things, right? And I think if you look at the States, I mean, who we are behind in, they've got over 200 scholastic courses that run competitively, which is a huge just entity of this ecosystem. And if I'm being brutally honest, this pandemic has been very, very hard on a lot of people, whether they like to admit it or not. And if it wasn't for the games and esports industry, streaming and content creation, I think it'd be a different world than it is now. As we've seen, the digital online space is grown phenomenally. And because of this ecosystem, other organizations and sport, for example, have reached out to us. I know because I'm part of this company, but well, to kind of how they can keep their employees engaged, their fans engaged, and just the organization engaged as well in this like kind of horrible time that it has been. And to kind of ask why it's important. It's important because it's people are so passionate about what they are doing and how they're doing it. Just because it's labeled esports doesn't mean that it's not as valid as anything else that's out there. And when you look out there at the numbers and statistics that people have been throwing around today, it just shows you that it's just the beginning, and it's not, even though it's in its infancy, it's going to be an absolute force to be reckoned with.
Brilliant. Well, look, we've run out of time as we enter the new enlightenment in esports. Thank you, Fiona. Thanks, Gary, so much for your intelligence, insights, and really appreciate, on behalf of British Esports, the work that Pearson have come in. Bringing Pearson into the market is a game changer. So thank you for that.